pregnancy test sat on the marble counter between them like a lit bomb, 2 pink lines that should have been impossible because Ara had been so careful, so cautious. But Ryu Seong-min just smiled that dangerous smile and said the 5 words that made her blood run cold. "I know, I planned it." His hand moved to her stomach, possessive, claiming, while security locked every exit, and Ara realized with terrifying clarity that the man who'd saved her from kidnappers 6 months ago had become her most beautiful prison. "You're mine now," he whispered against her ear. "Forever, no escape." And the worst part? Her traitorous heart believed him. Welcome to Afro-Korean Drama Hub, dearest friend. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ara Okafor was a children's advocate working with Seoul's immigrant community, running a small non-profit that helped refugee kids adjust to Korean life. She'd brought 3 of her charges to what she thought was a legitimate charity auction. She had no idea it was a front for Seoul's criminal elite auctioning stolen artifacts. When the rival gang attacked, her only thought was protecting those kids. She didn't expect to survive. She definitely didn't expect the devastatingly handsome man in the tailored charcoal suit to appear like death itself, moving with lethal precision, taking down attackers with terrifying ease. And she absolutely didn't expect him to kneel before her afterward, eyes dark and unreadable, voice dangerously soft. "Are you hurt?" His English was perfect, accent slight. Ara's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "The children, are they safe?" "They're fine. My men moved them to safety. But you're bleeding." She looked down. Blood seeped through her dress from a grazing wound on her side. She hadn't even felt it. "I'm okay. You're not." He stood, already making decisions. "You're coming with me. Like hell I am." Ara stepped back. "I don't know who you are, but I'm taking those kids home now. The kids are already en route to your non-profit with medical personnel and security. You, however, need treatment, and you need to answer questions about why you were at an illegal auction." Her stomach dropped. Illegal. "I was invited. It was supposed to be for charity. By who? A donor. Someone named Park. He said he wanted to support refugee children." Ryu's expression darkened. "Park Min-ho, my rival. He used you as bait to get to me, which means you're now a target." "Congratulations, Miss Okafor. Your life just became very complicated." The private clinic smelled like money and secrecy. Ara sat on the examination table while a doctor stitched her side, Ryu watching from the corner, silent, intense. "You can't keep me here. I have work tomorrow. The kids need me. The kids have protection now. 24-hour security at your non-profit." He stepped closer. "And you're not going anywhere until we're certain Park won't retaliate." "Retaliate for what?" "I didn't do anything. You witnessed the attack. You can identify his men. That makes you evidence and a liability." Ryu's jaw tightened. "I won't let him use you to get to me. I didn't ask for your protection. You don't get a choice." His tone brooked no argument. "Park Min-ho is brutal. If he thinks you matter to me, he'll take you, torture you, kill you. So yes, Miss Okafor, you're staying exactly where I can see you. And where is that? My home." Ara laughed, slightly hysterical. "You're insane. I'm not going to live with a criminal." "Mafia boss, actually." "And you will, because the alternative is watching you die, and that's not acceptable to me." "Why?" she demanded. "Why do you care what happens to me?" For a long moment Ryu said nothing. Then he moved close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. "Because when I saw you standing between those children and danger, ready to die for them, something in me recognized something in you. Courage, integrity, fire. And I protect what's precious, even if it doesn't want protection." Ryu's penthouse overlooked the Han River, all glass and steel and minimalist luxury. Ara stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself, trying to process. A day ago she'd been a non-profit director worried about funding. Now she was apparently under the protection of Seoul's most dangerous man. A woman appeared, older, kind-faced. "I'm Mrs. Choi. I'll be helping you settle in. Mr. Ryu had clothes brought for you. Your size, I hope." "How does he know my size? He's very observant." Mrs. Choi smiled gently. "And very concerned about your welfare. He's been pacing like a caged tiger since you arrived. Ara glanced toward the closed study door. He's dangerous, yes, but not to you. Mrs. Choi's expression softened. I've worked for Mr. Ryu for 15 years. I've seen him eliminate threats without blinking, but I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you tonight, like you were air and he was drowning. The days that followed were surreal. Ara worked remotely, video calling with her non-profit staff while Ryu's security watched the building. She tried to maintain normalcy, but nothing about this was normal. Ryu himself was a study in contradictions. Cold and commanding in business calls, speaking rapid Korean with deadly authority, but with her, careful, almost gentle. He brought her favourite tea without asking, made sure she had space, never touched her without permission. Yet his eyes followed her constantly, protective, possessive, hungry. 1 week in, Ara found him in his study at midnight, surrounded by security footage, looking exhausted. Can't sleep. He glanced up, making sure Park hasn't located any vulnerabilities. Meaning me, meaning everyone I care about. His honesty surprised her, and I'm included in that list. You have been since the moment you put yourself between those children and a bullet. Ryu stood, moving closer. Most people run from danger. You ran toward it. Do you know how rare that is? I was just doing my job. Your job is advocacy, not human shield. He stopped inches away. You're extraordinary, Ara. Brave, compassionate, selfless, everything I'm not. You saved us. That makes you pretty extraordinary too. Something shifted between them. The air grew heavier, charged. I should go to bed. Her voice came out breathless. Ara. She stopped at the door, his voice low, vulnerable. Thank you. For what? For making me want to be better, for making me feel human, for making me believe something good could exist in my world. 2 weeks later, everything exploded. Ara insisted on visiting her non-profit, just for an hour with security. Ryu agreed reluctantly, but while she was there, meeting with kids, reviewing programs, a new volunteer arrived. Young, handsome, too charming. He flirted openly, complimented her dress, her smile, her dedication. Ara was polite but distant. She didn't see Ryu's security guard call it in, didn't know Ryu was watching live feeds from his office, didn't realise the temperature in his penthouse dropped to Arctic when he saw another man touching her arm, making her laugh. By the time she returned, Ryu was on the balcony, posture rigid, jaw clenched. Everything okay? She asked carefully. Who was he? Excuse me, the man at your non-profit, the volunteer. Ara blinked. Junho, he's new, wants to help with after-school programs. Why was he touching you? It was her shoulder, a friendly gesture, nothing inappropriate. Ryu turned, eyes blazing. Friendly. He looked at you like you were his to claim, like I don't exist, you don't own me. The words came out sharper than intended. I know. His voice dropped to something raw, dangerous, but watching another man touch you, make you smile, it made me want to burn the world down. That's not healthy. Maybe not. He moved closer, but it's true. You've gotten under my skin, Ara, into my head, my chest. I think about you constantly, dream about you. Imagine what it would be like to actually have you, not just protect you. This isn't real. It's proximity, danger. We barely know each other. I know you put strangers' children before your own safety. I know you drink tea with honey, hate mornings, sketch in notebooks when you think no one's watching. I know you bite your lip when you're nervous and your eyes light up when kids succeed. His hand came up, fingertips grazing her jaw. I know you're the first person in 15 years to make me feel something other than emptiness, and I know I'm falling for you so hard it terrifies me. The kiss happened without decision. One moment they were staring at each other, breathing hard, the next his mouth was on hers and she was pulling him closer, desperate, aching, drowning in sensation. Ryu kissed like a man starved, hands tangling in her curls, body pressing her against the glass. Ara wrapped her arms around his neck, curves melting against hard muscle, gasping when he lifted her effortlessly. They barely made it to his bedroom. clothes shed between heated kisses, restraint shattering. When he laid her on silk sheets, eyes dark with need, Ara felt vulnerable, powerful, terrified, alive. Mine? Ryu whispered against her throat. Say it. Yours. The word escaped broken, honest, only yours. What happened next was fade to black, but the emotion was everything. Tender and intense, vulnerable and consuming. He worshipped every curve, every inch of her, like he was memorizing her through touch. She clung to him, overwhelmed by connection she'd never felt. When it was over, bodies tangled together, Ryu held her like she was the only thing keeping him human. But morning brought clarity and panic. Ara woke alone, shame and fear flooding in. She'd slept with a criminal, a man whose world was violence. What was she thinking? She dressed quickly, slipped out before he woke, took a cab to her old apartment. By the time Ryu found the empty bed, she was gone. He tore Seoul apart looking for her, called every contact, tracked every location, his controlled facade cracking. 3 days passed. Ara hid in her apartment, crying, hating herself for running, for wanting him, for missing the safety of his arms. On the 4th day, he found her, kicked the door open, furious, desperate. You left, his voice cracked. You left me? I had to. Ara backed away. This is wrong. We're wrong. You're a criminal, and I'm supposed to help people, not fall for someone who hurts them. I hurt people who threaten what's mine. Ryu crossed the room in 2 strides. Bad people, dangerous people, never innocents, never you. But you don't want me. He grabbed her shoulders, not rough, pleading. You want someone safe, someone clean, someone who doesn't have blood on his hands. I want. Tears spilled over. I want you so much it scares me. Then why run? Because what happens when you get bored? When you realise I'm just a poor non-profit director with nothing to offer? When you move on to someone more exciting, more appropriate? His forehead pressed to hers. You think this is temporary. Ryu's laugh was broken. Ara, I've spent 32 years feeling nothing, building walls, surviving. Then you appeared and destroyed every defence I had. You're not excitement. You're home. You're the reason I wake up, the reason I want to be better. And if you leave because you don't want me, I'll survive. But don't leave because you think I'll stop wanting you. That's impossible. Ara looked into his eyes, saw truth there, vulnerability, desperate love. She kissed him, answer and surrender. Okay, I'll stay. I'll try. That's all I need. They returned to his penthouse together. No more running, no more fear, just the dangerous, impossible truth that they belonged to each other now. But peace lasted exactly 6 days. Park Min-ho made his move. A coordinated attack, bombs at Ryu's businesses, assassins sent to his allies, and worst, a team sent to Ara's non-profit during after-school hours. Ryu was in a meeting when the call came. His face went white. Park has Ara. He took her from the non-profit, has her at his compound. Every person in the room fell silent. We mobilize now. Ryu's voice was dead calm, the quiet before massacre. Full assault. I want every man armed, every exit covered, and Park Min-ho breathing when I arrive. I want him alive. Boss, this could be a trap. Then it's a trap I'm walking into. His eyes were ice. Because if he hurts her, if he touches her, I will destroy everything he loves, everyone he knows, burn his empire to ash. No negotiation, no mercy. She's mine, and I'm getting her back. The compound was a fortress outside Seoul. Ryu's men surrounded it like death itself. Inside, Ara was bound to a chair, terrified but defiant. Park circled her, smiling. Ryu Seong-min's weakness. Who would have thought? The great emotionless boss brought low by a pretty face. She spit at him. He's coming for you. Oh, I'm counting on it. Park's smile widened. The moment he walks through that door, my men will end him, and you'll watch. Then you'll die knowing you cost him everything. Before Ara could respond, explosions rocked the building. Gunfire erupted. Chaos descended. Ryu came through the door like vengeance incarnate, moving with brutal efficiency, taking down Park's men with lethal precision. When he reached her, cut her bonds, his hands shook. "Are you hurt?" She threw her arms around him. "I knew you'd come. Always." His voice broke. "Always." Park tried to run. Ryu caught him, slammed him against the wall. "You touched what's mine. The punishment is death, but I'm merciful. I'll make it quick. Don't." Ara's voice stopped him. "Don't become what he is. Not for me." Ryu's control wavered. "He deserves to face justice." She moved close. "Real justice, not your vengeance, please." For a long moment Ryu stared at Park, violence warring with love. Then he released him, let his men take Park into custody for the authorities, because Ara asked, because she made him better. They went home. Ryu held her through the night, protective, grateful, terrified of how close he'd come to losing her. The next morning he called a press conference, stood before cameras and reporters, and made an announcement that shocked Seoul's underworld. "I'm stepping back from operations, restructuring my organisation toward legitimate business. No more violence, no more blood. Because someone showed me there's more to life than survival. There's love, there's purpose, there's hope. And I choose that. I choose her." 6 months later, they stood on a cliff overlooking the Han River. Ryu in a tailored suit, Ara in white silk that hugged every curve. Before family, friends, and the kids from her non-profit, they made promises. To love completely, to protect fiercely, to build something beautiful from the ashes of his past. And when Ara whispered 3 months later, voice shaking, that she was pregnant, Ryu dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead to her stomach, and wept. "Mine, both of you, forever. I got you pregnant on purpose, you know." Ara laughed through tears, fingers in his hair. "What? That night 6 months ago, I knew." He looked up, eyes blazing with love. "Knew I needed to bind you to me completely, needed you to be mine in every way, so you'd never leave. You're insane. I'm yours." He stood, pulled her close. "And you're mine, forever. No escape. I don't want to escape. Good, because I'd move heaven and earth to keep you." And 9 months later, when their son was born, perfect and beautiful with his father's eyes and his mother's smile, Ryu held him with shaking hands and knew his empire meant nothing. His power meant nothing. This, his wife and son, they were everything. And he would protect them, love them, worship them, until his last breath. Because some meetings don't just change your life, they save your soul. And Ara Okafor had saved Ryu Seongmin from the darkness inside himself. Made him human, made him whole, made him hers, forever. 3 years passed like a dream. Ryu's legitimate business empire grew, built on real estate, technology investments, security consulting. He was still feared, still respected, but now for his business acumen rather than violence. Ara's non-profit expanded, opened 3 new locations across Seoul, helped hundreds of refugee families. They moved into a home overlooking the Han River, filled it with laughter, warmth, the sounds of their son learning to walk and talk. Life was good, peaceful, almost normal. Then the past came knocking. Park Min-ho's younger brother appeared at Ara's non-profit one afternoon. Younger, angrier, hungry for revenge. He didn't attack immediately. Instead, he watched, learned, planned, discovered that Ryu and Ara had a son, discovered their routines, their vulnerabilities. 3 months after he started watching, he made his move. Ara was at the park with their son, 3-year-old Taehyun, when men surrounded them. Not obviously threatening. Just too many strangers closing in, blocking exits. Ara's security training kicked in. She scooped up Taehyun, already reaching for her phone. Before she could dial, a voice stopped her. "Make that call and the boy dies." She turned slowly. Park Min-ho's brother stood there, smiling. Younger than his brother, maybe 25, but with the same cruel eyes. "You took everything from my family. Now I take everything from yours." He gestured. "Your security detail is currently dealing with a distraction across town. Your husband thinks you're safe, but you're not. You're mine. What do you want? Money, power, Ryu's empire, and his suffering." She clutched Taehyun tighter. "He's just a baby. So was my nephew. Park Min-ho had a son, did you know that? 4 years old, killed in the raid when your husband destroyed my brother's organisation. Collateral damage, they called it. I call it murder. Ara's blood went cold. I didn't know. Now you do. And now you'll understand what it feels like to lose a child. Her phone buzzed. Ryu calling. Park's brother smiled. Answer it, put it on speaker, tell him everything's fine, or the boy dies right here. Ara answered with shaking. Hands. Hey. Her voice somehow stayed steady. Everything okay at the park? Ryu's voice was warm, relaxed. Perfect. Taehyun's feeding ducks. We'll be home soon. Good. Love you both. Love you too. She hung up. Park's brother nodded approvingly. Smart. Now walk to the parking lot. Black van. Get in quietly. Don't make me hurt him. Ara had no choice. She carried her son into the van, surrounded by armed men, and disappeared. When Ryu found out, the world ended. He'd called again an hour later, worried when they didn't come home. Straight to voicemail. He'd sent security to the park. Found Ara's phone in the grass, ducks still swimming, no sign of his family. The rage that consumed him was biblical. He mobilized every resource, called in every favor, activated networks he'd spent 3 years building legitimately. Within 2 hours, he had Park's brother's location. A warehouse outside Seoul, heavily guarded, designed for torture. Ryu didn't wait for backup, didn't plan carefully, just armed himself and went. Because his wife and son were in there, and every second they suffered was unacceptable. The assault was brutal. Ryu moved through Park's men like death itself, no hesitation, no mercy, just cold, efficient violence. He'd promised Ara he'd be better, but for her, for Taehyun, he'd become a monster again. He found them in a basement room. Ara tied to a chair, Taehyun crying in a cage, both terrified but alive. Park's brother stood between them and freedom, gun in hand. You came alone. How romantic. Let them go. This is between us. The younger man laughed. You think I'm my brother, stupid enough to negotiate. I learned from his mistakes. You don't negotiate with monsters, you destroy them. He pointed the gun at Taehyun's cage, starting with what they love most. Ryu moved, faster than thought. The gun went off. Pain exploded through his shoulder, but he kept moving, tackled Park's brother, fought with desperate violence. They crashed through tables, shattered glass, blood everywhere. Ara screamed his name, struggling against her bonds. In the end, Ryu won. Stood over Park's brother, fist raised for the killing blow. Don't! Ara's voice stopped him. Don't become what he is, not in front of our son. Ryu looked at Taehyun, terrified, crying, traumatized. Looked at Ara, bloody, brave, begging him to be better. He lowered his fist, called authorities instead. Let justice handle it. Because she was right. Their son didn't need to see his father as a killer, needed to see him as a man who chose right over easy. The aftermath was complicated. Park's brother went to prison. Ryu's shoulder healed, but Taehyun had nightmares for months. Clung to both parents constantly, terrified they'd disappear. Ara started therapy, worked through trauma, taught Taehyun that fear was normal but didn't have to control him. And Ryu, he finally understood what Ara had been trying to teach him. That real strength wasn't violence. It was choosing peace when rage would be easier. Choosing forgiveness when vengeance would feel better. Choosing love when fear tried to win. 6 months later, Ara found him on the balcony late at night, staring at the city. Can't sleep. He pulled her close. Just thinking about how close I came to losing you both. We're safe now. I know. His arms tightened, but I keep replaying it. What if I'd been too late? What if he'd hurt you? What if... You weren't. Ara turned in his embrace. You saved us, like always. That's what you do. Love us, protect us, save us. Even when it costs you everything, it doesn't cost me everything. Ryu pressed his forehead to hers. You are everything. You and Taehyun, my entire world. Then trust that world. Trust that we're strong enough to handle the past. Trust that our future is bigger than your fear. He kissed her, slow and deep, pouring 3 years of love and devotion into the connection. You're right. You're always right. Not always. She smiled against his mouth. But about this, yes. 1 year later, Ryu stood in front of a room full of Seoul's most powerful business leaders and made an announcement that shocked everyone. I'm establishing the Park Foundation, named for the families destroyed by gang violence, mine included. It will fund therapy, education, job training for anyone trying to escape criminal life. It will help children orphaned by gang wars, and it will be funded entirely by profits from my companies. Silence. Then someone asked the obvious question. Why? Why help the families of your enemies? Because my wife taught me that breaking cycles of violence requires more than just stopping the violence. It requires healing, building, giving people better options. And because I have a son who deserves to grow up in a world where his father's past doesn't define his future. The foundation launched to massive success. Ara ran it, poured her heart into helping families escape the underworld. Ryu supported her completely, used his reputation to protect the vulnerable instead of threaten them. And slowly, Seoul's criminal underground changed. Not overnight, not completely, but enough. Enough that families had options. Enough that kids didn't have to follow their parents into gangs. Enough that hope existed where only violence had before. 5 years after that terrible day in the park, Ryu and Ara stood in their garden watching Taehyun, now 8, play with his younger siblings. Twin girls, 4 years old, named Jihye and Sora. They were wild, beautiful, fearless, just like their mother. "Mommy!" Jihye called. "Taehyun won't share the swing." "Because you've been on it for an hour," Taehyun called back. "My turn." Ara started toward them, but Ryu caught her hand. "Let them figure it out. They're going to fight. Siblings fight. We'll intervene if needed, but they're tougher than you think." He was right. 30 seconds later, the twins and Taehyun had negotiated a schedule. Each got 10 minutes on the swing. Problem solved. See? Ryu pulled Ara back against his chest. Brilliant, brave, capable. Just like their mother, they get stubbornness from you, and protection instincts from you. Ara leaned into him. Taehyun's always watching out for his sisters. Wonder where he learned that. Ryu kissed her temple. From watching his father worship his mother. From seeing what real love looks like, speaking of which. He turned her to face him. "I have something for you." "Ryu, we agreed no more expensive gifts. This isn't expensive. It's priceless." He pulled out a folded paper. "What is it?" "Adoption papers for 52 children currently in the foster system. The foundation is expanding into permanent family placement. We're building a campus where kids can stay long-term, get education, therapy, love, until they're ready for adoption or aging out, and I'm funding it completely." Tears filled Ara's eyes. "That's incredible. There's more." He took her hands. "I want us to be foster parents. Take in kids who need temporary homes while they heal. Teach them what family means. Show them they're worth protecting. You want to foster. After everything we've been through. Because of everything we've been through." Ryu's expression was serious. "We know what trauma looks like. We know how to fight through it. We have resources, space, love to give. And I want our children to grow up understanding that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's commitment. It's showing up for people who need you." Ara threw her arms around him, crying, laughing. "Yes, yes, let's do it." 6 months later, their first foster child arrived. A teenage girl, 15, who'd escaped a trafficking ring. Terrified, angry, broken. Her name was Minji. She didn't speak for 2 weeks, just watched the family with suspicious eyes, waiting for the trap. But slowly, Taehyun's kindness wore her down. The twins' enthusiasm made her smile. Ara's gentle presence felt safe, and Ryu, he understood her fear in ways others couldn't, sat with her in silence, taught her self-defense, promised she'd never be helpless again. 3 months in, Minji finally spoke at dinner. "Why are you doing this? Helping me? I'm nobody." Ryu set down his chopsticks. "You're not nobody. You're a survivor, a fighter, someone who deserves a chance to heal." His eyes held hers. "And I know what it's like to think you're too broken to be loved. But my wife taught me something important. Nobody's too broken. We're all just waiting for someone brave enough to love us anyway." Minji's eyes filled. "I don't know how to be part of a family." Then we'll learn together. Ara reached across the table, because we're still learning too. Every day. That night, Minji cried herself to sleep. But it was different this time. Not the hopeless tears of trauma. The healing tears of someone finally safe enough to break down. Finally home. 2 years later, Minji stood in their garden, high school diploma in hand, acceptance letter to Seoul University in the other. Ara and Ryu stood on either side, arms around her, pride radiating. From both! You did it, Ara whispered. We're so proud, thank you. Minji's voice broke. For everything, for giving me a home, a family, a future. You gave that to yourself. Ryu squeezed her shoulder. We just provided the space for you to heal. Minji looked at them, this couple who'd saved her life without asking for anything in return. Can I tell you something? Always. When I first came here, I thought you were crazy. She laughed through tears. Rich people playing saviour, pretending to care. But you're not pretending. You really love each other, really love your kids, really wanted to help me. And watching you, seeing what real love looks like, it made me believe I could have that someday too. You will, Ara promised. You're going to do amazing things, Minji. Change the world. Maybe. Minji smiled. Or maybe I'll just do what you did. Find someone who makes me want to be better. Build a family worth fighting for. Show up for people who need help. That's changing the world, Ryu said quietly, one person at a time. 10 years after that first terrifying encounter in the auction house, Ryu and Ara renewed their vows. Not because they needed to, because they wanted to celebrate everything they'd survived and built. The ceremony was intimate. Close friends, family, the kids they'd fostered who'd become permanent parts of their family. Minji stood as maid of honour, now a social worker herself, helping other trafficking survivors. Taehyun and the twins scattered flower petals, and Ryu's former associates, now legitimate businessmen thanks to his example, watched in amazement as the most feared boss in Seoul's history promised his life to the woman who'd saved his soul. I was dead before you, Ryu said, voice rough with emotion, walking, breathing, but dead inside. You brought me back to life, taught me what it means to love, to hope, to be human, and every day with you is a gift I never deserved but will spend the rest of my life being worthy of. Ara couldn't stop crying. You think you saved me, but I was drowning too, in loneliness, in fear, in believing I had to be strong enough to handle everything alone. You taught me that strength isn't carrying everything yourself. It's letting someone else help carry the weight. It's building something together that neither of us could build alone. And I love you, madly, completely, forever. They kissed as the sun set over Seoul, surrounded by the family they built from trauma and choice and stubborn, impossible love. That night, in their bedroom, Ryu pulled Ara close. Happy, she nestled against him, deliriously. You, more than I ever imagined possible. He kissed her forehead. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing past the monster to the man underneath. For believing I could be better. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. She looked up at him. You know what I realized today? What? You saved me first. That day in the auction house, you could have left me. Let Park's men finish the job. Kept your distance. But you didn't. You saved me before you even knew me, before love was a factor, just because it was right. That's when I fell for you. Before I even knew your name, I saw a man who'd built his life on violence choose mercy, choose protection, choose me. And I knew my life would never be the same. It never was. Ryu's arms tightened. From that moment, you were mine. I just didn't have the words to explain it. Didn't understand what you'd awakened in me. But I do now. You're my soul, my reason, my everything, and I'd do it all again. Every fight, every sacrifice, every moment of fear, because it led me here. To you, to this family, to this life, to home, me too. Ara whispered. I'd choose you 1,000 times, in every life, every universe, every possibility. You're it for me, Ryu Seong-min, my impossible love, my beautiful disaster, my home. They fell asleep tangled together, hearts beating in sync, lives forever intertwined. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibility. Inside, a family slept peacefully, safe, loved, whole. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again. Love fiercely, protect completely, build something beautiful from the ashes of the past, because that's what family does. That's what love means. And their story, born from violence but sustained by devotion, proved that sometimes the most broken people build the strongest foundations. Sometimes the most unlikely love stories become the most powerful. And sometimes saving someone else is how you save yourself. The end.